In this video, the Bitcoin price is finally getting this double bottom that we've seen replicated twice before, and now we got the next double bottom. The big question is, will we see the history repeat where the price goes up like this and tests the resistance all the way up here? I'm going to show you two bullish signs for the short-term price, and I'm going to show you one bearish sign for the more long-term price. I'm also going to show you this chart. I'm going to do some on-chain analysis for you, showing us that the Bitcoin whales are rapidly increasing in numbers. And I'm going to show you why this point in this chart is very, very important. And this analysis points towards the fact that the Bitcoin price could go to as high as $456,000 not so far from now. But the big news for this video comes from the Federal Reserve. They just announced that they will now individually go and buy corporate debt from individual companies. Now this creates a big moral hazard, and I want to talk about why this is a very bad thing, having this central authority being able to push a button, print trillions of dollars, and just handing it out to individual companies. And I want to show you, of course, why Bitcoin is the perfect alternative. And if you think that that sounds interesting, then I think that you should definitely watch this video. Hello guys, and welcome to the moon. My name is Carl and I'm here to bring you this Bitcoin video. Alright, look at this. This is the daily time frame, and Bitcoin did get this big wick down all the way down to 8.9k approximately, and then the buyers actually stepped in here and started to push Bitcoin to the upside. I want to first go into the 4-hourly and just take a look at this on a more detailed view. And yesterday I made a video right here talking about how Bitcoin is currently breaking this yellow support line, but we also could see yesterday that the buyers were stepping in, just like we saw back there, and back there we did see the buyers actually push Bitcoin up after this wick. So that was a similarity, and now in hindsight we can see that this actually did play out. The bulls did come in here and made a counter move here to the bears, who previously pushed Bitcoin down. And something else that I talked about yesterday was that it looked like Bitcoin was breaking out to the downside here, but just like I said in yesterday's video, there is no volume. And when there is no volume, I am very, very skeptical, and essentially my analysis yesterday was that I'm very skeptical towards this dump because there is no volume, and what I said was that the volume is even lower than back here where we saw a fake out, and if we break out for real, then what I would like to see is volume being much higher than the previous volume candles that we've seen within this ascending triangle. So honestly, I would like to see volume all the way up here somewhere. And if we make a comparison, let's say we make a line right there, you can see here that the volume was nowhere near these levels. It was all the way down here. So relatively, we saw very, very low volume. And this is what I always tell you guys, volume is key. Especially when you are doing breakout trading, make sure to always take a look at the volume. And this time, this saved us from doing any overly bearish trading, because the volume didn't confirm the breakout. Alright, so what does this mean for the future? Well, let's actually bring up the RSI, because I do want to show you that Bitcoin is currently printing here a bullish divergence on the 4-hourly time frame, as you can see right there. If I zoom in on the RSI, you can see here that this is indeed a low and a higher low, and in the price you can see here how we have a low and a lower low. Doesn't matter if you connect the full bodies or the wicks, you will see the same thing regardless. And this is a bullish divergence showing us that in the immediate short term, on the 4-hourly time frame, the Bitcoin price is looking bullish, and I think the likeliest scenario is that Bitcoin is going to do something like this, and it's possible that we might be coming up for a retest of the resistance up here. Now, does this bullish divergence indicates that Bitcoin might break out to the upside like this? Not necessarily, because this bullish divergence only affects the immediate short term. On the bigger time frame, there's a lot of resistance up here. So when I'm saying that I'm bullish here in the short term, I'm simply saying that here in the immediate short term, Bitcoin is looking bullish, not necessarily a longer term bullish bias here. And just like I said, I think 3 days ago, what I'm looking for is a potential double bottom forming here, like we saw right there, and now we can see how we did indeed actually get a double bottom here. And after this double bottom, we did see a retest of this resistance up there, and after this double bottom, we saw another retest of the resistance up there. And after this double bottom, it is safe to assume that the likelihood of us coming up and testing the resistance is quite high. So that is something I want to point out to you guys. And there is actually another bullish sign I want to show you. And if we go out to the daily time frame and zoom in, we can see that Bitcoin did print this big wick here. And whenever you see a candle like this green candle, this is usually a bullish sign. And if you see it on the opposite, then it's usually a bearish sign. And this is on the daily time frame. And basically this indicates that the bulls are very strong down here, and the bulls have gained back control over the Bitcoin price in the short term. Now, this was all very short-term analysis. On the bigger time frame, I still want to remain neutral here, because Bitcoin is actually now still within this ascending triangle, and Bitcoin did now actually hold above this support line. And if we bring out the moving averages on the daily time frame, we can see how Bitcoin closed above this green line, which is the 50 daily moving average, and that is of course a good sign. That's a bullish sign. However, the most important level or moving average, in my opinion, is the 20 daily moving average, and Bitcoin is still below this purple line. And for Bitcoin to come back above this level, we need to see Bitcoin come back above 9,600. If we see Bitcoin do that, then I will become even more bullish in the short term. But I will wait for this to happen. You can see how Bitcoin has been bouncing between the 20 and the 50 here. And eventually Bitcoin will have to decide whether to break up above the 20 or to break down below the 50. And that could potentially lead to a volatile mood. Alright, so that was the bullish scenario here in the short term, and in the short term we are looking bullish. However, I still need to point out that Bitcoin on the daily time frame still has this bigger bearish divergence right there and right there on the daily time frame here, indicating that Bitcoin might actually get or it might be going bearish in the longer time frame. So maybe something like this is what's going to happen. Bitcoin is going to go up, test the resistance, and then it is possible that Bitcoin might actually break down here. We need to be realistic here and not be too bullish. But this is a scenario that we need to keep in mind. And as long as Bitcoin is below the $10,000 level, which is the resistance of this ascending triangle, but more importantly, as long as Bitcoin is below the 10.5K level, I still see the bearish scenario as a quite likely scenario, to be honest. We need to keep that in mind, but I want to remain neutral as long as Bitcoin is below 10.5K and above 8.6K. This is, in my opinion, my neutral zone. So right now I am not bullish or bearish in the longer time frame until we see any of this happen. But like I said before in this video, in the short term, I'm leaning a little bit more bullish than bearish. Hey guys, thank you so much for liking my video yesterday. 3.1 thousand likes, and you can see that this like to dislike ratio is completely amazing. It's very obvious that you guys enjoy my videos. Thank you so much. You are what makes this channel successful. You are watching my videos every day. Thank you very, very much. And I want to bring up 3 of your comments here. Philson says, everybody be bearish, I'm actually long. And Philson commented this before the Bitcoin price started to recover. So great call here, Philson. On your long, and I hope that you made some nice gains, and I hope that you found my analysis useful yesterday when I said that this dump, we should be skeptical about it, and it's possible that Bitcoin might actually shoot straight back up again, and that was a fake out. So thank you very much, Philson, for leaving your comment yesterday. And we have another guy, Oompa TAS, says here, it worries me how Bitcoin seems too attached to the equity market, and you're not the only one who is worried. We saw 25 upwards here, and I also liked this comment. And Gianluca says, just trade based on the S&P 500 and you'll make money today. And so we see that a lot of people are seeing this clear correlation between Bitcoin and the stock markets. However, there is one distinction we need to make, because Bitcoin is only correlated to the stock markets when the stock market is extremely volatile. But like I've said so many times, I think that this correlation will eventually end. But as long as the Fed keeps printing money and the stock markets keep going up, people are too focused on the stock market. We need to see a bigger financial disaster and a bigger monetary crisis before more people start looking towards Bitcoin as an alternative. That's my opinion. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to talk about the Federal Reserve and the big breaking news. But first, I want to show you this graph and the fact that the number of Bitcoin whales has been growing since January. Now, 1,882 entities are holding at least 1,000 Bitcoin. Down here we have the graph, so we have the Bitcoin price back here, and this orange line is the amount of entities or amount of people holding 1,000 Bitcoin. And the last time we were at these levels was way back here towards the end of 2017, right before Bitcoin went up to $20,000. And more interestingly though, is the first time Bitcoin broke above this level was way back here when Bitcoin was at $420 and was just about to do a 48x run all the way up to $20,000. So if anything, this is the point where we are currently if you were to compare with the history. And if Bitcoin goes 48x from here, that would put the Bitcoin price at $456,000. So this is an on-chain fundamental analysis that I'm making here based on the Glassnode chart that I posted here on Twitter. So basically the question is, will history repeat? And in my opinion, I think that we see many indicators showing us right now that Bitcoin is in the same scenario as it was before the last bull run. Many different indicators. Maybe the most famous one is the stock to flow ratio, of course. But yeah, leave your comments down below. What do you think? Are we going to see the same thing happen again? Do you think that $456,000 is a likely target based on this on-chain analysis that I just made? And next up, Bitcoin is becoming more trustworthy than big banks, says survey. The number of people who trust Bitcoin over big banks has shot up by 29% over the last 3 years, while millennials are flocking to Bitcoin. So it seems like millennials are the people that are most interested in Bitcoin. And my demographics on my YouTube channel, when I look at it, we can see that the average age is approximately 35 years old, and 95% men. So these are the people that are mostly interested in Bitcoin. But we are seeing a renewed interest in Bitcoin, and I think that as we see this financial crisis continue, eventually, and we see more and more currency getting printed by the Fed, eventually more and more people will start to trust Bitcoin more than the big banks. It's only a matter of time before people realize that the Fed and the big banks are in collusion with each other. It's a big corrupt system, and Bitcoin is a perfect decentralized free alternative for anyone to use. And another big difference between Bitcoin and the current banking money we have, because this is bank money, it is issued by a bank and the bank has central control over it. So it's actually not even money, it is currency if anything. But this is just a little bit ridiculous, because this is an image showing us the security of the US dollar. They have these watermarks, the color shifting ink, and the security thread, and 3D security ribbon, and these serial numbers, and all of these measures to try to make these notes as secure as possible to not be able to counterfeit. And somehow this just seems so ridiculous now that we are used to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has perfect security. You cannot fake a Bitcoin. You cannot counterfeit a Bitcoin, and you cannot steal a Bitcoin online. You cannot hack it. It's just completely secure. And this is also another great point where that people will eventually realize that Bitcoin is just so much better in every shape, way, and form. The only single reason to use the US dollar today is that other people accept the US dollar. That's the only reason. It has the network effect. But everything else is very bad with the US dollar. But next up, here's the big news. The US stock market closed higher on good news from the Federal Reserve. What is this good news? Well, it's free money, currency printing, unlimited currency, and it's just insane to see that it's so easy for the Fed to manipulate the stock market. They just push a button, print some currency, announce the news, and stocks start to rally. It's completely insane, guys. Here we can see how stocks started to go down, but after the news from the Federal Reserve, stocks started to go green again. And let's take a look at what is the actual news. Well, the news is that the Fed just announced it will buy individual corporate debt, and I'm saying here that this is yet another nail in the coffin for the US dollar. Alright, but some people might say, well, this is something they already announced a few months ago. No, not really, because a few months ago they said that they are going to buy corporate debt, corporate bonds, but through ETFs. So essentially they buy an index and they buy not individual stocks. But now they have announced that they will go in and individually pick companies from which they will buy corporate debt or corporate bonds. And to make it much more easier to understand, this is the Fed printing currency and just handing it over to these companies. The problem today is that we are in a financial crisis, even though the stock markets are not really showing us that we are, but we are in a financial disaster, and the corporate bond market is not doing well. People don't want to borrow to each other, so the Fed are stepping in here and basically artificially trying to push up this market by just printing currency and just handing it out to companies. And yeah, like I said, the news is that they will now pick individual companies. And obviously that's a bad thing, printing currency and giving to companies, but it's also even worse now, because now the Fed will decide who gets this free currency. They will devalue people's savings and just printing currency, giving it out to individual stocks where they choose who gets the money. They could literally go to their best friend. Maybe, let's say Jerome Powell knows the founder of, let's say, Netflix. Just an example. He could go to Netflix and just print currency and give to Netflix. Can you see the moral hazard here? I mean, why do we have a central authority being able to print currency and then choosing who this currency is going to? This is why we need to end this current system. We need to end the Fed and end the whole central bank system, and we need to end the whole banking system as a whole, because it's very corrupt, it's very centralized, and it needs to stop. Bitcoin is the perfect alternative because it's decentralized. No one can just print Bitcoin and just give it to someone. To mine Bitcoin, it costs money, it costs time. Just like mining gold, it costs time and money to do it, and therefore it has value, and therefore it's a better system. For the Fed to print $1 trillion, it only takes one small push of a button and boom, they got $1 trillion. It's just as easy as that. That's why the US dollar is easy money and Bitcoin and gold is hard money. And like I said in this tweet here, the confidence in the US dollar is quite literally living on borrowed time. Guys, if you think a US dollar hyperinflation is imminent, please go down and leave a thumbs up on this video. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please leave your comments down below. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? You can also leave your vote up in the poll that I always have in my videos. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't seen this video, then click right there right now, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.